Hello and welcome to our second session in this object mode. So in the description, I have provided you a link to download the last session file if you have not completed it. Open this 01 Primitives.blend. It will be already present in the recent files. It is in the solid state. I will open this option and in color I will choose random so that every object has different colors. And then I will click here and I will enable cavity. I will press 1 and I will come into the front view. See, to select all the objects present in your scene, you have to press A. But when I press A, you can see here camera and light is also selected. So I doesn't want this to get selected. Then I am going to come to these options later. So I can click somewhere here to deselect everything, go to select all by type and choose mesh. So when I click on select all by type mesh, all the mesh objects present in my scene is selected and camera and light is not selected. So like this, you can make selection based on the type of your object. If you press Alt plus G on your keyboard, then automatically you can see the position of all the objects were set to 0, 0, 0. Say you take the cube, it is set to 0, 0, hexagon 0, 0, 0, plane 0, 0, 0 and rhombus 0, 0, 0. All are set. We are going to rearrange this by using the transform tools. Move, rotate and scale. And here move is represented by the letter G. G stands for grab. Rotate is represented by the letter R and scale is represented by the letter S. So here I will first select the cube object. I am now going to press G and if I move, it moves in all direction. But I want this to move only along Z. So after pressing G, now if I press Z, see I can move it only along the Z axis. And then I can manually move it, or else I want to move it by an unit of 0.5. So if I type 0.5 on my keyboard and if I press enter, immediately, see, just like creation parameter, you also have this move parameter which opens here and tells you that you have moved the object along the Z axis by 0.5 units. Whatever action you do it here, that will be shown here. That's why in view, this is called as adjust last operation. I am going to select the hexagon and I want this hexagon to be placed at the front here. So I will press 7 and come into the top view. I will again press G and this time I want to move it along the Y axis. So I will press Y on my keyboard and I can move it like this. So now I will approximately place near here like this. Okay, leave it and here you can see the value from which you have to move. So I will set this to minus 1.43 and I can fine tune it. Fourth object that we had added was rhombus. I will select it. I will come in the front view by pressing 1 and even in this case I am going to press G, then I am going to press Z and to move to the top I have to move it by, see the value of that cube is 1 unit and here we have 0.5. So if I move it by 1.5 unit, see the cube, I will press enter now, it went and sat exactly over cube. Before I add the next primitive, this time instead of adding the primitive at 0, 0, 0 and then moving it, I am going to use a different approach. I will press 1 and come into the front view and I am going to move this cursor itself over here. So to move it, I will come to the view menu here and in the view menu you have 3D cursor and in 3D cursor along the Z I am going to move it by 2 meters. So when I move it by 2 meters, it goes and sits there. But I am now going to add an object which has a radius of 1 meter. So I will move it by 2.5 meters because I have to place an object and that object has a radius of 1 meter. So now I will go to add mesh and we are now going to add another type of sphere which is called as Ico Sphere. And when I click on this Ico Sphere, in the right hand side now in this menu, I am now going to set its radius to 0.5. I will press numpad period to zoom to it, and now here you can see the structure. See, in case of our regular UV sphere, you had rings and segments like longitude and latitude. But here, this entire circle is made up of only these triangles. And these subdivisions, these are called as the subdivisions. By default, this subdivision is set to 2. See, if I make this subdivision 1, then you can see this object has totally a different type of view. See? And if I increase this subdivision from 2 to 3, you see a more smooth circle. This kind of icosphere, we normally use it when we do sculpting. When we come to sculpting, you are going to understand how this triangulated structure is going to help you to sculpt the object better. So if I make segment 4, 5, if I increase it, the circle becomes more smooth. But if you see here, actually in this overlay, see that statistics is on. In the statistics, you can see as I increase the subdivision, the value of number of vertices and edges are going to become very heavy. So right now, I will set this back to 2. I will press 1 and come into the front view. Now, I doesn't want it to get added at this point. So, again I will press Shift plus C so that my cursor comes to its origin point. I will come into add mesh and this time I am going to add a cylinder. And in numpad period, if I click it, you are going to see this in close up. I will middle press the mouse, turn and just have a look at it. Now, to observe this structure better, I will come into the wireframe mode. Just like in UV sphere, this is divided into segments and you have totally 32 segments here. And these 32 segments, if I make say for example 4, the circle becomes a cube. And if I make it 3, I will come into the solid state view and I will show it to you. I will set this vertices value to around 6. So this will be like a hexagon like this. And I am going to set its radius very small to around 0.1. And then I will set its depth to 4 meters. I want this to be placed on this plane. So, if the depth is 4 meter, I have to move it along Z half of its value, which is 2 meters. So, it is now on this plane. I will press 7 and come to the top view and I am going to move it by 0.95 along the X and 0.95 along the Y. I will set X and Y. I select both together and I will set its value to 0.9 so that it is inside line. I am going to again go to add mesh and I will add one more cylinder this time. And this cylinder, now I am going to adjust its position by using my move tool. And selecting the move tool, along the Z axis, if I move like this, I will move and leave it. You are going to see the move parameter here. And here, now I can fine tune this move with 2 meters. And now I will press numpad 7 and come into the top view. I will press G on my keyboard and I am going to just move it to this corner here. Now you can see that I want the x value to be minus 0.9 and y value to be 0.9. So then I am going to fine tune. Now next I am going to come over here, add mesh, and I am going to add one more cylinder now, and this time I am going to adjust it directly in the view, in the transform. So here itself I can give the value directly. So now I will set the x value to minus 0.9, and then I will set the y value to, also I will set it to minus 0.9, and z value I will set it to 2. Then again I am going to go add here mesh, and I am going to add one more cylinder, and now I will press 7 and come over here. I will just zoom it a little. With G I will grab it and place it here, and this time again I will set the x value to 0.9 and y to minus 0.9. I have to also move it along the z by 2 meters. Okay, so we have some structure ready. Now I will press 1 and come into the front. I am going to name these cylinders as pillar 1, then I will name this as pillar 2, then I will name this as pillar 3, and the fourth one I will name it as pillar 4. I will press 1 and come into the front view. To place it here, I am going to move my cursor. I will come into the view menu, and 3D cursor along X, I am going to move it by around 4.5 units. Now at this position, I am now going to add mesh a cone. So this is a cone, and now again for cone, if you come over here, you have various parameters. The very first parameter is the segment, which is set to 32. So if I press numpad period, you can zoom it over here, and if you see here, see this has 32 segment as of now. Now what I want is, instead of 32 segment, if I make it 3, this becomes something like a pyramid, and if I press 4, see this appears like a tomb now. Now only thing is, I want this to be rotated by 40 degree along the z axis. So I will come in rotation in z, I will rotate it by 40 degree. Then I want its depth to be 1 meter. So on the radius 1 represents the radius at the bottom, and I am going to set this radius to 2 meters. 2 is very big. I will set it to 1.5. So when I set it to 1.5, see this is placed like this, and radius 2 also, if I set it to 1.5, this will now become a cube like structure. See, but I doesn't want it like this. So the radius 2 I will keep it something like 0.3. I am again going to press numpad 1 here, and with shift middle mouse I will move in like this. So we have this structure, and the next parameter or the thing that I am going to add, for that I will add it at the same point where the cursor is right now. There only I am going to come into the add, and I am going to go to mesh, and I am going to add a torus. Torus is something like a tire. This is a structure like tire, and if you come to this torus presets here, now in this operator presets, you have segments, 2 segments. One is the segment which is running. If I come into the wireframe view with shift middle mouse, I will just zoom and show it to you. The rings that you are seeing here, these rings represent your major segments, okay, that is running all around. And if I decrease this major segment to 3, see this becomes somewhat like a triangular object, but right now I will set this to 4. So this became something like a square object. And the second is the minor segment which is running horizontally here, and it is set to 12. See, if I make it 6, you can see how its structure changed. I will come into the solid state view. Now after this, I am now going to rotate it along the x-axis by 45 degree. So you have a structure like this. Now only thing is, in this one I will change this 0.25 to something like 0.1, and you have a structure like this. Torus, I am going to call this as tomb. This is a part of the tomb. I am now going to move this cursor to this point. So for that, I will move it along the x by 5.25, because I will be adding another object over here. And the next, I will press Shift plus A, and in mesh now I am going to add a grid. And when I click on this grid, the grid is added here. And only thing is, I want it a little down. Instead of 5, I will set it at 5 meters. Okay. And here for this grid, the grid is nothing but it is similar to a plane. But the only difference is, in case of a grid, if you come into the wireframe view, in case of a plane, you doesn't have any segments inside. But in case of a grid, you can add segments. Say for example, here the segment is set to 10 by 10. I can select both of this, and if I make it 4 by 4, you have this divided into 4 by 4 segments. I will come back to solid state, and I will come into the front view. With the move tool selected, I will move it down somewhere here. At this point, I will move it by around minus 1.5 in this parameter. Finally, at this point, I am going to again press Shift A, and in mesh I am going to add a monkey. And this monkey is called as a Suzanne monkey. And this is basically used to create a complex structure in a primitive. So in this monkey, right now it is set to 2 meters. I will set this size to 1 meter. And you can see here, I will place this monkey, I will move it, I will press 3 and come into the side view. I will drag it and place it exactly over this like this, and I will move it by around minus 0.05 and place it. Now what we have now done is, we have created some object or some 3D structure using only the primitives. So then go to File and go to Save As, and I am going to name this as 02_primitives. And so we have created a simple structure here, and in our next session we are going to discuss about this view and select menus.